Welcome to Under the Hood.
I'm Dr. Alex DiGrado, your pelvic floor physical therapist.
And I'm Dr. Rebecca Howard Eudy, your sex and relationship therapist.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Alex.
Okay, so you told me a term, you gave me a term that I've never heard of before, and I actually have no idea what it means. So that's going to be the topic for today because
Okay.
I can't be the only one in the world that doesn't know what this is, and that's the vulnerability flinch. And we're going to try and interweave gratitude as well into this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe you mentioned to me that this is a term coined by Brené Brown. Is that?
I believe so. I mean,
Okay.
I heard about it first from her.
Okay. And can you explain to me kind of what this is?
Yeah, definitely. So, as many people may know, Brené Brown is a researcher and storyteller, and she's a social worker by training. And her main area of research is vulnerability.
Mm.
And one of the reasons why it's so important to my work, and why I admire her work so much, is because vulnerability is so key to so many areas of the human experience.
So true.
You have to be able to be vulnerable to be connected.
Mm.
That is the gateway into connection.
Yeah.
And, vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity,
Intimacy,
entrepreneurship.
so true.
There's so much. Anytime you initiate something, anytime you try something new, anytime you try to connect with somebody,
So true.
share something, it's vulnerable.
Because you risk the rejection in some ways. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
Wow.
one of the most vulnerable things that I personally have done recently is put out this book, which came out in October. And, I wrote the book in the, darkness of the early morning in my office, and then nobody read it. I mean, my editor was the first person who read it.
Wow.
And it felt so vulnerable. To give it to my editor was fine, because she's a professional. But even Lee didn't read it.
Wow.
I was convinced that this was going to be, it's a steaming pile of garbage, and I think
that's so true, because every time I've read aloud the prologue, the initial section of my book, I cry because it's so hard to read it out loud to people. And I have to read it out loud because I can't even let them look at the words. It's I still need to maintain that sort of control.
Right. Oh, totally. Because it's a risk. It's a
risk.
Monumental risk.
Totally.
You're putting your hat in the ring in this really big way.
Wow.
And so anytime we do something that's important, it's vulnerable.
Yes.
And anytime we love, it's vulnerable.
It's so vulnerable. I remember when a very, very dear, close person in our family passed away, I went with my sister to say goodbye to them, and I could not show my emotions because it just felt too scary and risky. And I felt like I needed to be the big sister and keep it all together, and my sibling who was with me was just beautifully expressing their feelings. And it was just so beautiful, and I felt them inside, but I couldn't let them out, because that was just too scary for me at the time,
It's really hard. I mean, it's really hard. It is really vulnerable to be, the way that we experience vulnerability and connection is to allow ourselves to be impacted.
Yes.
So I talk about this with couples all the time, which is that we misunderstand vulnerability. When somebody tells us something, if I were to tell you something about myself that was sort of vulnerable, a lot of times, I think particularly women, and I think particularly American women, think that the way to respond to that is by sharing something back.
I just did that. I literally just did it.
Well,
you talked about your book and I talked about.
Well, you talked. Yeah. But I mean, that, but
I think
that's
you're right.
Not how I experienced what you just did. But we sometimes miss the mark there.
Yes, I get it. I've experienced that.
Yeah, exactly. And then it leaves you feeling actually disconnected. Yeah, exactly. But the way that we respond to vulnerability with connection is to allow ourselves to be impacted and allow that to show.
Wow.
So in that room with that person who you're saying goodbye to, that is a deeply impactful. To allow that vulnerability of death.
Yes.
Of
impending.
Saying goodbye.
Right. Saying goodbye. Yeah.
Of really life.
Yes.
That this person's life. To allow yourself to be impacted by that, you would show emotions.
Yeah.
And that is scary and it's hard.
Totally.
And so that the vulnerability flinch is this thing where you are experiencing something so raw. And a lot of times it's love.
Yeah.
A lot of times it can show up love for our children, love for our partner,
Yeah.
appreciation for our life. It's like, it's so good. And so an example of the vulnerability fringe is the knock on wood,
Yes,
or that
totally.
it's like the waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yep.
Like, I just said that something was good. It's
Yes.
gonna
Oh,
go
yeah,
away.
totally.
So that's the
I
flinch.
see.
You see?
I am misunderstood. I thought the flinch was just not wanting to be vulnerable. But what you're saying is it's actually just feeling that vulnerable feeling and then what? Trying to
Well, you push it away.
push it away. Okay.
So that's the flinch. And a lot of times the flinch looks like, I love, my family's so wonderful, or my, this life is so beautiful,
Mm.
or you feel this
Yep.
this joy and
Yeah.
this positive feeling, which is deeply vulnerable,
Yes.
because we immediately think about it going away.
Oh.
So it's sort of like, and then we start picturing the phone
Oh,
call.
wow. That's
We
so
start
much. Yeah.
picturing car accidents
Yeah.
and all of the ways in which it could go away. And then instead of leaning into and feeling the vulnerability of this beautiful moment, or this fleeting,
Mm.
thing in our lives that is so joyful, we start to rehearse so that we're prepared.
I had a dear, dear friend who is just wise beyond her years who said exactly this. And I had a similar conversation with a patient this week where in early pregnancy, many of us are afraid to be excited and afraid to feel
Yes.
that joy and afraid to think about the future because we don't know whether this particular pregnancy will come to fruition
Mhm.
and so people fear that joy. It sounds like this is exactly that.
That's
But
exactly it.
what she said was she was so happy that she experienced that joy and that excitement and
Yeah.
that love for the period of time that she experienced it because it wasn't going to change the outcome.
Mhm.
You know, the miscarriage was going to happen whether or not she felt joy.
Mhm.
And so squashing that doesn't keep you safe. It doesn't
Yeah.
prevent what's going to happen.
It doesn't, but our nervous system thinks that it will.
Yeah,
If
right.
we don't get too excited,
Then we'll
then we
feel
won't.
less sad, but it's not true.
It's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true. Exactly. And there's no way that you can rehearse enough
Yeah,
for that phone call, whatever that phone call is.
totally.
You don't
Yeah.
know what it's going to be, and you
Yeah.
don't, and so that, I think that's a beautiful example
Mm,
of the vulnerability flinch. And there's a lot of actual, we feel it vicariously.
yes.
So if somebody is in early pregnancy and they're like, I'm so excited, this is
Mm,
so amazing, and this
yeah.
baby, and they're
Yeah, planning
panicking
and
and
buying
planning.
clothes and all that, and you sort
Exactly.
of do feel like, "Ah."
You feel
Yeah,
nervous for
yeah.
them. And it's like, I mean, I would never say that, but I think people that I know have experienced that. When they are excited, they actually get feedback from people. Well, just be patient,
Yeah, yeah,
don't get
totally,
too
as opposed to letting
excited.
them feel that wonderful joy,
And
yeah.
how often do we say that to our kids or to our partners, or how often do we feel a vicarious flinch when we see somebody really celebrating,
Mm.
or really, you know, being impacted by something? We want to protect them. We want to
Oh,
protect them from the sadness or
mhm.
the disappointment that might be coming down the road, and we want to prepare them for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other examples? Because that is the miscarriage one is the one I can really think of, but are there other examples in life that would resonate?
Well, I mean, the thing that's coming to mind right now when we record this, it's the early spring.
Yeah.
And I'm a gardener. I
Mhm.
love flowers. I mean, I love flowers. It's
Yeah.
like one of the places that I regularly feel
Yeah.
the most just
Connection with life.
unbridled
Yeah.
joy.
Yes.
Like I see
Yeah.
the lilacs are blooming right now, and I see the lilacs and I
Mm.
smell the lilacs, and it's like I just
Life is so beautiful. Yeah.
it is. They're so beautiful.
Mm.
And it makes my heart just overflow. It's a moment of just like, oh, like
Yes.
so much love there.
Yeah.
And so then I start thinking about it. This is sort of dark, but I start thinking about, okay, maybe we've got 2 weeks with them.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then we have to
The
wait till
end.
next year.
Mm.
And where am I going to be next year?
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
totally.
like how is my life going to be different next year? And then I start feeling sad. And
Okay.
then I start feeling maybe a little bit anxious. And
Mm.
then I start worrying
Oh.
about what it's going to be. And so then I have to bring myself back into the moment. No, like And so it feels all, I think that when we really feel our feelings, they can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's really what that vulnerability flinch is. So the reason why it's so important to notice when that happens to us is because it's an opportunity to tolerate vulnerability,
Yes.
positive emotions. It's not just sadness or, anger or, we think of vulnerability as being negative, but actually so often vulnerability is positive. It's anything that impacts us.
Mm.
And so many of us flinch away from any kind of vulnerability. And by doing that, we limit our capacity to really deeply connect and be impacted by other people. And then we have loneliness, even within, and I see this with the couples that I work with all the time as we start to do this work of getting to know each other better and understanding each other's emotions. There, it does start to be really deeply vulnerable because our partners and our loves are so, we have such capacity to hurt each other.
Yes.
And it's easy to get defensive and it's easy to pull away
And put your guard up.
and
Yeah.
put your guard up. And even with the positive stuff, it can feel like it's hard to be really impacted by people who really matter.
Wow. And then people sometimes say, "Oh, she wears her heart on her sleeve," or "He wears his heart on his sleeve,"
Mhm.
and that sort of element of people who are truly sensitive to the world and have those deep emotions and are still expressing freely their feelings. I do think sometimes we almost look down on it a little bit
Mhm.
because they are almost constantly vulnerable, right? They have their heart open to the world and you're just like, "Ooh, you're going to get hurt," you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
I think there's that. And then in all fairness, there are people who do overshare.
Yeah.
And that's actually not vulnerable either.
No.
That's like being able to be vulnerable and to choose what to share and to choose when to be impacted. It it's really special.
Mhm.
It's really special to let somebody in
Yeah.
and choosing carefully who you do that with
Yes. Yeah.
and choosing carefully when you allow yourself to be impacted,
Mhm.
is a beautiful skill
Yeah.
because if
And it is a skill,
it
absolutely.
is a skill. And so, there's some people who really struggle. Emotions are contagious,
Yeah.
right? So they really struggle because they're walking through the world sort of this open
Yep.
and this sort of like more empathic.
Empath, yeah.
Yeah, and so that can be really challenging.
Mhm.
Those folks, they may really need to figure out how to guard themselves a little bit more, how
Mhm.
to be a little less impacted.
Yeah, that's interesting because I will not watch any movies or shows that have violence, sexual violence, especially
Mhm.
abuse. I don't find that to be entertaining in any way, shape, or form. When people were
Yeah.
into Game of Thrones, I was disgusted and horrified. I just refused. And then also, I really, really watch what I absorb
Mhm.
in terms of news and stuff like that because I do get so deeply impacted. So I think you're
Yeah.
right. It's sort of culling what you even expose yourself to if you know that you have those tendencies.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the same way. Being, I think, a little bit more sensitive
Mm.
to the environment. I'm very sort of careful about what I
Absorb
absorb,
or even
what I
expose
think.
yourself to.
Yeah.
But I that is a skill that I learned over time. When I was younger, I used to watch scary movies with my friends and stuff, and I would hate it.
Yeah.
They would seem like they liked it. They would be so entertained by it, and I
Mhm.
would be so deeply and I would think about it for weeks,
Yeah.
And so then as an adult, I've realized, "Oh, that's not for me.
Yeah.
That doesn't entertain me. I don't like that. I'm not going to do that."
Mhm.
So that's an interesting I didn't realize that this would meander in that direction, but it's
Yeah.
very relatable.
Yeah. And I think the thing, especially with relationships, that can happen is that it when we allow somebody else to see that they can impact
Yeah,
us, it gives them power
totally.
over us.
Mhm.
And when you've been in a relationship and you've been hurt in a relationship, it can feel really scary to open yourself up and allow, even your, spouse to know that they can impact you that much.
Yeah.
Because there is a protective piece
Mm.
of wanting to protect yourselves, not wanting to be hurt. But again, that's the tolerance of vulnerability, which, to be honest, like as a therapist, I'm very comfortable with other people's vulnerability, and I'm very, I feel deeply impacted by my clients. I'm often very touched by their emotions. Um, and in my personal life, I do struggle with vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so when I say to my clients, like, it's the fucking worst. Like, I am with you. You do not like being vulnerable. Neither do I in
Yeah.
my own life. When I go to therapy, I'm like, oh, I've got therapy today. Oh,
Yeah,
or like,
I just skip it and research for the podcast,
yeah,
I just
exactly.
do my therapy session researching for the
Yeah.
podcast.
I mean, when you said that,
Yeah.
last episode, when you were talking about that, I was like, that is very, very relatable. The therapy that I do is IFS, internal family systems.
Okay.
I've been doing that, and it's very interesting. I like to do the therapy that I'm interested in getting trained in. And so
Yeah.
when I was getting trained in emotionally focused therapy, I was like, hey, Lee, can we do a little research?
Yeah.
And also maybe it won't hurt our relationship. And so, but the same thing when we were going to couples therapy, we've since graduated. But
Amazing.
when we were going to couples therapy regularly, I was like, oh, oh no, we've got therapy today. It's the worst. And, he had a very different experience of it. I think he really looked forward to it. But for people who tend to be a little bit better at compartmentalizing, who don't struggle so much with regulating their emotions
Yep.
because they're really good at
Yeah.
compartmentalizing, which is not me, they may find that watching those movies that evoke emotion, or, they
It's
may seek
cathartic or
out, it's
something. Mhm.
cathartic, exactly. But for those of us who walk through the world, really focusing on kind of keeping a steady stream, we may want to avoid that. And that's not a bad thing. That is not the vulnerability flinch. That's knowing yourself.
Yeah.
But the vulnerability flinch is that moment that, I mean, I think that the miscarriage is a really beautiful example, or the I love my kids so much, I hope nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, and experiencing that unbridled joy without feeling that you have to suppress it.
Yeah,
Mm,
exactly.
cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Under the Hood. If you liked this episode, please take a minute and leave us a review. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have any ideas for future episodes, please let us know.